Fourth cinema originated from New Zealand. Barry Barkley in 2000 coined the term fourth cinema, which meant cinema made by indigenous people for indigenous people. In his words, they are films that are made by communities on the shore and not the invaders on the ship. It's an idea that first, second and third cinema are all cinemas of the modern national state, which is invader cinema. Therefore, messages and ideologies within indigenous communities cannot be translated in film that is not set up for nor accessible to these communities. Problems with stereotype and misrepresentation is due to Western hegemony. This highlights the activist role fourth cinema plays in indigenous political movements. By generating alternatives to the invader's ethnographic lens, fourth cinema becomes a means to counter a common history of indigenous people across the globe. Fourth cinema is the regeneration of indigenous language and cultures around the world, and chronicle indigenous movements for land and natural resources. Boy from 2010 by Taika Waititi is a revolutionary example of fourth cinema because it incorporates most of the issues that Barry Barkley noted as should be used to describe the indigenous people, especially the Maori. All aspects of the film are indigenous. Taika Waititi produced, directed, wrote and acted in the film, and used actors from his Maori tribe throughout the film. The beginning of the film shows off the beautiful landscapes of New Zealand and its natural resources. Through the use of cinematography, the viewers are given a different perspective of how indigenous communities lived before being driven out of their land, compared to the places they live currently. Taika Waititi's film focuses on the indigenous history in New Zealand, and how the communities face social and economic challenges. Boy's auntie works multiple jobs and they all live in a small house with no access to natural resources, an example being that they make milk from dried powder. The film aligns with fourth cinema as every aspect is made according to the specific Maori community in which it was set. Acknowledging the issues that face these communities, the film illustrates the drug and alcohol problems that are prevalent in indigenous communities, as they often face economic issues due to colonization. It shows how they become ingrained in certain cultures as both young and old are involved in its production and selling, being ingrained at a young age. Waititi also uses traditional Maori music in his soundtrack of the film, and so it is a film which encompasses all the experiences of a Maori community. The success of this film supports the ideology of fourth films that they can rival other movies that emerge from contemporary settings while educating people and highlighting issues that affect indigenous communities. It also aids more Maori filmmakers to venture into the industry, as it shows there is avenue for the community's stories to be told. Starting in New Zealand, fourth cinema has extended to communities across the world. Aboriginal Australians in the recent years have created more films telling stories of their communities. An example is the film Samson and Delilah in 2009 by Warren Thornton, which illustrates Aboriginal culture and also describes the challenges the communities face, such as aggression and living in poor rural areas of Australian outback. The film showcases traditional Aboriginal art and music. The story surrounds two Aboriginal teenagers who flee their isolated home in search of something better in a big city, but still face more challenges as they arrive in the predominantly white area. Australia having huge problems of racism and separation, this film highlights how Aboriginal communities have been forced to live. Native American cinema and Inuit cinema has also grown in funding and viewership, as more filmmakers are able to create work through the indigenous gaze. We are able to get an in-depth, personal and accurate account of stories within indigenous communities that are excluded from proper representation within first, second or third cinema. Fourth cinema also aids feminist filmmaking. Helen Sazal said, "Women must write herself, must write about women and bring women to writing from which they have been driven away." Through fourth cinema, women are able to write about unique experiences separate to the preconceived ideologies which are prevalent in other types of cinema. Therefore, we can see that fourth cinema is not only beneficial to indigenous communities, as it also serves a way to give space for voices that are otherwise not heard in conventional contemporary cinema.